Okay, well, hello everyone. Sorry for the late start, but really appreciate you all being here, both in person and online. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Kugelman. I direct the South Asia Institute at the Wilson Center. In addition to thanking all of you for being here, I would like to thank the Wilson Center's Kissinger Institute on China and the U.S. for co-sponsoring today's discussion. I'm also very happy that we have several dignitaries and VIPs with us this morning. And specifically, I wanted to recognize Ambassador Masood Khan from Pakistan's ambassador to the U.S. Thank you for coming, and he has several of his staff from the embassy. I'm really delighted to be hosting today's event with Baqir Sajjad, who, as you all know, is the Wilson Center's Pakistan Fellow. Many of you, I trust, know of Baqir and his work. He's long served as a journalist in Pakistan, contributing to domestic and international outlets more broadly. He's long been a commentator on foreign policy and security issues, and he's previously authored monographs on CPEC and on Pakistan's defense budget, among other issues. So Baqir's 9 months at the Wilson Center and his fascinating research project on Pakistan's approach to U.S.-China competition signal the revitalization of a long-standing Wilson Center Fellowship for thought leaders from Pakistan. It's a program that we began nearly 2 decades ago. It had been on a bit of a hiatus more recently, and we're very happy that we've been able to bring it back. The Wilson Center is very grateful to the partners and supporters that have made possible the revitalization of this fellowship. And 2 of them, Fazal Sirhandi and Mosaddeq Chugtai, are here with us today. So thank you, and thank you to all the others. A core purpose of the Pakistan Fellowship is to bring in a wider range of voices to contribute to policy debates on Pakistan and U.S.-Pakistan relations in Washington, with an emphasis on careful, nuanced debate. In that sense, Baqir's project does exactly what we seek to do. For many casual observers, Pakistan's position on U.S.-China competition is very simple. Pakistan is all in with China, fully in Beijing's camp, with no interest in balancing its relations with Beijing and Washington, end of story. But Baqir's project interrogates that assumption in a big way and takes a welcome, closer, nuanced look. So in the coming weeks, we'll be publishing Baqir's initial findings in the form of a long paper. He will be working on a book project that will come out further down the road. And I would argue that Baqir's project and today's event come at a very interesting moment, as we're seeing some interesting iterations of the U.S.-Pakistan-China triangle playing out now. U.S.-China rivalry is, of course, highly fraught, but China's foreign minister was just in Washington for meetings last week, and just earlier this week there were bilateral talks on arms control. U.S.-Pakistan relations are unsettled, uncertain, but they're currently in a calm period. There's no crises. And Pakistan-China relations are strong and deep, but they've experienced some bumps of late, especially due to momentum losses with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And I don't want to overstate these trends, but it highlights that there's more to this U.S.-China-Pakistan triangle than the casual observer may believe. At any rate, no one came here to hear me talk, so I will wrap up shortly. Just a few quick housekeeping notes. In a moment, I'll turn things over to Baqir. He'll give his presentation, and then I'll pose a few questions to him before we open up to an audience Q&A. And for those of you watching online, you should see a chat box on your screen. If you have a question at any time, type it in there, hit send, and then it will come to us, and we'll try to get to those questions as well. So with that, I turn things over to you, Baqir.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everybody, for sparing time to come here. And especially, I would like to thank Ambassador Masood Khan for his presence here today. And your presence today at this event underscores that we cannot ignore the profound geopolitical shifts that are taking place around us, central to which is the United States-China rivalry. Some of the countries or some quarters were slow to recognize the significance of this monumental event that has brought about a seismic change at the global level. But we need to now recognize that this is not just a news headline. It is impacting our daily lives. It is impacting the way the countries interact and the businesses operate, and it has also heavily influenced the the pulse of the global economy. So now if we zoom into the United States-China rivalry, we would see that United States is very closely watching Chinese moves around Taiwan, and it's verily seeing Chinese power and influence rise. And if you put into that the human rights concerns that the United States have about China and the way the Communist Party of China governs, so things begin to heat up. But even then, this is not about just a territorial dispute. It's about who is going to be the next technology kingpin, and at the same time, who is going to set the economic rules for the future. And this is not some old dance routine from the Cold War era. This time, the two rival parties are fairly evenly matched. They are economically intertwined, and at the same time, they have a lot of shared global interests. So their moves have strategic implications for each other. So here we are at the epic dance. The challenge is to move gracefully, avoid missteps, and find a rhythm that prevents this ballroom from turning into battleground. So the Indo-Pacific has emerged as the epicenter of this competition. And every move that is taking place there, whether it's in the form of formation of alliances or the military exercises, so everything is being seen as a chess move in this grand play. So, but if you picture the vastness of Indo-Pacific, it extends from the eastern coast of Africa to the west coast of America. So it's a vast area, but luckily this competition is not playing all across this huge stage. It is rather focused on East Asia, the Straits of Taiwan, the East China Sea, the troubled waters of South China Sea, and the strategic dance in the Sea of Japan. And that is the main stage, and there's where the drama is unfolding. You can call it the Broadway of the geopolitical theater or of the 21st century. And I have an observation about the term Indo-Pacific. It seems to have been coined in a way to draw India into onto America's side and feel as if it is part of the bigger game. But at least this aspect is not being attached much importance in Washington at the moment, that within this larger plot, there's a smaller plot as well. The Pakistan-India rivalry plot, subplot, which can potentially have larger consequences for the bigger plot as well in future, although right now things are pretty under control. But you can consider India and Pakistan as the indie filmmakers in this world of big studio productions. They are pretty independent. They have their own rules. They run their foreign policy according to their own interests instead of being tied to Washington or Beijing's playbook. And even if China would look to be chummy with Pakistan and United States would seem to be batting for India, but there's nothing, this partnership is not cast into stone, and there are no such commitments till death do we part, So that's why Indian Ocean, I would say, is not a marquee on this map of the great power competition between the United States and Pakistan. But if the conflict kicks off in East Asia, we'll see the ripples coming towards South Asia in the form of military movements, the muscle flexing by naval vessels, but still it's not going to be the main story. So this leaves India and Pakistan with a kind of freedom. They are not boxed into narrative like, say, Japan or Australia that are too tied to the United States. It's difficult to tell where it starts and where it ends. So Pakistan and India, there's enough wiggle room to script their own scenes in this unfolding drama rather than being yanked into the storyline for which they are not signed up. And Pakistan, Michael, it seems to be very, located quite a huge distance from Pacific to feel the turbulence over Pacific Ocean. So theoretically, that looks like that, but practically it doesn't happen that way. Pakistan started getting sucked into the thick of things back during Trump's administration, when United States became increasingly vocal about its issues with China, and BRI became a target because everyone saw BRI as a Chinese arm to expand its geopolitical influence, grow soft power, and increase its economic footprint, as well as to pursue its naval strategy. And China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which was then described as the flagship project of BRI, also became the talk of town. And all of you remember in 2017, Mattis went off about it. In 2018, Mike Pompeo expressed his unease over the possibility of some of the IMF money being used to cover Chinese loans. And then in 2019, there was more side-eye from the United States about the transparency of CPEC projects, and some of those views were expressed, at an event here in this building. But Pakistan, despite this increasing U.S. criticism, stuck to its guns and continued to insist that this is a project that is important for Pakistan's economic growth, and there's no such thing like Pakistan drowning under the Chinese debt burden. Then came Biden's team, and we have quite a strong presence from Pakistan embassy today here. And I don't know if they share this view or not, but we here in Islamabad, and there was this, there were people had been complaining about telephone call that Biden administration sort of cold-shouldered Pakistan. There could have been many reasons for that. Probably because that could have been because of the bumps in the road that President Biden that he felt during his tenure as the vice president, or the way things on Afghanistan evolved immediately after Biden took over office, leading to the troubled departure from Afghanistan. But one factor that certainly impacted America's perceptions about Pakistan was China. We see the relations between Pakistan and United States turned lukewarm and controversially, although there's no direct linkage, but the United States started getting cozier with countries in AUKUS, the Quad, and other countries that had problems with China. And especially, I would like to refer to the growing relationship between United States and India. It's not just about the sale and purchase of arms. India is now investing heavily. America is investing heavily in India, and the supply chains are moving there. United States getting into India's tech industry, the full 9 yards. They are bolstering its capacity to produce semiconductors. And then recently we had this General Electric deal for the production of fighter engines, and then there's cooperation over drone technology. So, it's a very long list. But what's strikingly important in this relationship is that this partnership has persistently and continuously increased over the past 4 administrations. And the United States has been so much deeply involved in this partnership that it sort of tends to ignore some of the other stuff. United States stands for a lot of values, and particularly this administration it prides itself for being value-based, but it does not look towards or does not take notice of the human rights violations taking place, the persecution of minorities, the maltreatment of the opposition parties, the repression of media, even if I wouldn't speak about the plight of Kashmiris. So no wonder Pakistan is a bit on the edge about it. But the question is, how does Pakistan feature into this India-US relationship? We have heard a lot about dehyphenation, that there's no hyphenation by India, and there's no India-Pakistan hyphenation anymore. So how does Pakistan still feature into it? The main plank of United States-Pakistan cooperation continues to be counterterrorism. Even though counterterrorism has gone down on the agenda of the United States foreign policy priorities because the terrorist groups operating there in that region are no more focused towards the West. And the second area that is consuming a lot of US foreign policy's bandwidth is regional stability. And most of you might have read the Integrated Country Strategy paper that outlines the diplomatic priorities for Pakistan. It categorically mentions that United States would ensure that Pakistan's military does not pose a threat to United States and its allies. So, the United States is very concerned about stability over there, and it should be because, if the situation gets out of control over there, it could have other implications, as I said, at the start, that you can then get China drawn into it, then the United States will step into it. But then there's the business perspective was also there because the corporate sector is moving in there and setting up its shop. So if it's to turn into a red zone, a hot zone, then you will have to deal with other things. So that's why, even though Pakistan has gone down on the priority list of the political bigwigs in Washington and in other Western capitals, but Pakistan still retains a bright spot on the radar of the folks over at the Department of Defense. Now that I've explained the lay of the land to you, I would move to probably an area where some of you would be interested. How does Pakistan see this evolving US-China rivalry? Michael has, given an opener in which that Pakistan is already siding with it. But, there's an understanding. There's not going to be the official position that I'm going to share with you, which Pakistan always shares. But there's a sense of how people over there, and especially the policy circles over there, see this evolving rivalry. Pakistan understands the depth of US strategic anxiety, especially after branding of China as a strategic competitor. This move is much more significant than just political posturing. And Pakistan also understands that this isn't a political drama, happening at a distant land. It is something that is going to impact its foreign policy objectives and game plan. So, in order to fully comprehend, we must realize that United States is employing a multiple tool approach involving its economic clout, being politically savvy, and signing up players like Quad and AUKUS for Team US, and at the same time trying to change the game board through Indo-Pacific economic framework and support for Indian initiative of building a corridor from India to Europe via Middle East, although the prospects of that have been greatly dimmed by some of the recent events. Now here Pakistan is in the thick of things, sandwiched in high-stakes regional backdrop. The Pakistani strategists are closely watching this, and they are calculating and strategizing their moves. That's where I disagree with Michael, that Pakistan is already there in the Chinese camp, and we disagreed even at the time I recall. So, yes. But Pakistani strategists do realize that there are no winning moves. The best they can do is to avoid getting caught in this, crossfire. And this is the view or the sense that I've got from Pakistan, that Pakistani strategists think that the United States is degrading and deteriorating the geopolitical space in which China operates by allegedly creating uncertainty and instability in areas of interest for China. And the idea is to get China busy over there, get its resources employed over there so that its ability to act at the larger global scale is constrained. And then the US strategy is to exploit differences between China and its neighbors. This is the sense there. I'm not ascribing to this view fully, but this is the sense that is in Islamabad. And by leveraging those fault lines, they want to get China bogged down and Pakistan especially notes the U.S. assistance for the countries along the East China Sea and in the countries in the ASEAN region, where United States is giving military support, political support, as well as economic incentives. And the game plan looks to be that that by engaging these countries, the United States will be able to check China's maritime and territorial plans, which Washington sees as aggressive and expansionist. And this support is not limited to just their disputes, but there's a broader U.S. strategy behind this to prevent China from dominating the region, which would then have allowed China to project power beyond its borders. But I think more concerning for Pakistan is the impression that the U.S. overtures towards India and propping up it as the net security provider signals a shift of the regional power dynamics. And for this, Pakistan is not just a new strategic alignment, but it is also a direct challenge to Pakistan's regional aspirations and the security paradigms. So the elevation of India on the geopolitical podium and the military bolstering that has followed has forced Pakistan to reassess its foreign policy and defense policy. Islamabad is also following the economic the component of the strategy that involves decoupling and relocating U.S. firms from China, imposing tariffs, etc., and especially the high-profile actions like the Chips and Science Act and the banning of TikTok. Pakistan is a partner with China in China-Pakistan economic corridor. So Pakistan feels that it is at the cusp of the shock waves. And the spy balloon issue, it didn't go down as a footnote in the narrative. It is a reminder for Pakistan how this clash of titans can devolve into a regional or global crisis. And the swapping of the sanctions that you saw immediately after the event, which was sort of muscle flexing by the two sides, conveyed or communicated to small and middle states that how the recurrence of such incidents could change their strategic calculuses. And Michael also talked about the ongoing dialogue, about the arms control and the meeting between the foreign minister and the Secretary of State. And this ongoing high-stakes dialogue between the United States and China, despite this rivalry, mistrust, it's nuanced diplomacy. For Pakistan, the persistence in dialogue represents a fragile, though very critical, balance, which holds out the assurance that this confrontation is not all that imminent as it may appear to us. However, it is also a harbinger of the delicate tightrope Pakistan must walk. So now this is how Pakistan is looking at the United States, and then Pakistan is also closely watching what China is doing. But in any case, the blame for the first mover goes to the United States, and Chinese moves are seen as a reaction to that in Islamabad. Pakistan is also, the policy circles are a great fan of the Chinese policy of, preferring cooperation over confrontation, and they also welcomed and appreciated the Chinese actions for regional peace and stability. For instance, the recent effort for the rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So that went very well with Islamabad. But the important thing in that thinking is that Pakistan believes that China's rise will impact the global and regional dynamics in a way that is going to be beneficial for Pakistan. So that's why you see, the Pakistani actions more aligned towards, China. So how do Pakistan go, and deal with this rivalry? So we have, as a middle state, Pakistan has been traditionally middle state, but it has been facing challenges. Small and medium states have normally 4 strategies, which I'm not going to go in detail because of time. So those are neutrality, bandwagoning, balancing, hedging, So these are the possible four, and we'll discuss these in context of how they relate to Pakistan. But and theoretically, I'm not going to discuss where. If there's any question, I can then go back to them as well. Pakistan's foreign policy journey has been marked by a series of strategic adjustments, primarily driven by its economic, security, and ideological needs. Historically, as I've just said, that Pakistan has been a middle power, though its international stature has been greatly diminished because of the economic challenges that it has been facing. And the founding principles of Pakistan's foreign policy were rooted in the ideals of peace and cooperation, and projecting Pakistan as a progressive, democratic, and a modern Muslim state. Those ambitions got sidetracked because of two reasons. One was its economic vulnerabilities, and second was its acute sense of insecurity because of unresolved disputes with India. Therefore, Pakistan had to seek strong allies. In the initial phase, Pakistan allied with the Western countries, but as time passed and dynamics changed, Pakistan got closer to China. And these partnerships were not just just notes, geopolitical notes. They, in fact, helped Pakistan grow militarily, and they also helped Pakistan economically. And now, when Pakistan is passing through a turbulent phase, it again requires the help of strong allies. But while choosing its allies, the consideration behind any Pakistani strategist or policymaker would be four. They already have a good understanding of the needs of Pakistan, needs and interests of Pakistan. The second consideration would be, which country can help Pakistan. They will assess, and they must have done this assessment already, that which country can help Pakistan and has the willingness to do so. And the third would be that country, whichever the country they shortlist as an ally, what has been that country's approach and history of helping Pakistan. And then the final consideration would be that how is this going to be, this choice going to be seen on the other side? For instance, if they pick Beijing, then how is it going to be seen in Washington? And if they pick Washington, then how is it going to be seen in the other side, on the other side? So the answer to these questions would primarily lie on 11 factors. I'll just read out those 11 factors without going into the details. The geographic proximity, political convergence, regional power dynamics, military cooperation, the investment in strategic structures, interference in domestic politics, economic and trade relationships, societal ties and people-to-people linkages, diaspora influence, that's very important. Then the role in international financial institutions and Pakistan's nuclear program. So now, how does these calculations fit into the available options? Let's first come to neutrality and non-alignment. In this era of great power dynamics and realpolitik, the concept of neutrality and non-alignment holds a great allure for nations seeking development and safeguarding their sovereignty without getting entangled in great power competition. For Pakistan, which has already got a stated policy of not being a part of any camp politics, that commitment has to be implemented in letter and spirit. And this inherently comes with a departure from any security assurances or active military alliances. So, if Pakistan was to go on this path, it would have to undertake the wholesale overhaul of its foreign policy, especially in its relations with the United States and China, by maintaining equidistance from both Beijing and Washington. But if you look at the political canvas, this picture looks to be more intricate. Pakistan is a partner with China in CPEC. Then Pakistan has some profound partnership, security and economic partnership with China, and that that does not only have an economic angle, but it also has implications for the security paradigm of Pakistan and the region. So Pakistan cannot easily walk off from, the partnership with China for the sake of neutrality. Moreover, in this current scenario, the geopolitical scenario, the indispensability of solid economic and strategic affiliations is paramount. So a policy of complete non-alignment without any strategic partnerships could potentially undermine Pakistan's economic well-being, as well as increase its vulnerabilities, especially towards India. Then comes balancing. Although this is a little misunderstood in the general discourse, and balancing, people talk about maintaining equal relationship with both rivals, but this the balancing concept that I'm talking relates to the balance of power. So in this, Pakistan would have to pivot from its traditionally pro-China position to pro-United States position. This can potentially come with a lot of benefits as well as challenges. It can lead to economic rejuvenation, technological advancement, but this geopolitical shift is not going to be simple and straightforward for multiple reasons. First, the shadows of Afghan crisis, the troubled departure of United States, is still there at the mind of the American strategists, even though you don't hear much about that now. But when you'll get to sit down to talk about a new alignment with them or negotiate terms of alliance with them, I think that will decrease Pakistan's negotiating power. And then this journey westwards journey would be marred by mistrust on both sides because of unfulfilled pledges. And furthermore, this alignment, if it takes place, it will come with costs. China can get estranged, and then you can envision what's going to happen, like the specter of massive debt repayments, the stalling of CPEC, and losing steadfast economic and steadfast support for financial and security support. So this does not look very feasible. So there's another stark reality in this calculation, that is the Western view about military cooperation or security cooperation with Pakistan, especially in the context of India-Pakistan rivalry. Unlike such security assurances, that come with these partnerships, no one is ready to give assurances to Pakistan with regards to India. So that adds another level of vulnerability to Pakistan. And then, the values that sometimes, Western countries look the other side, but they can also come a potential source of friction: the human rights, the governance, structural reforms. So that's another element. So if we go to the option of bandwagoning, that Pakistan gets closer to China. So that would be, if that scenario happens, that wouldn't be a matter of choice. Rather, it would be out of reaction to United States and the West siding with India. And should Pakistan tread this path, you would see clear deviance emerging in that region, and the two dyads would emerge: United States, India, and China, Pakistan. So this partnership would also come with promise of increased military cooperation as well as security cooperation. But the road to Beijing isn't without thorns either. Pakistan's storied past with the West is punctuated with grants. But when Chinese helping hand comes, it comes clutching loans. And some of them were at very high interest rates. And that is a potential news for an economically struggling country like Pakistan. Moreover, the intertwining of Pakistani and Chinese economy would also pose another risk. For instance, if the dragon falters under the weight of its rivalry with China, then those shock waves are going to further damage Pakistan's fiscal foundations. And at the same time, Pakistan is going to alienate the West as well. The international stage is too big. It's not just the Security Council where China holds veto. China, in fact, lacks the dexterity to cobble alliances. It cannot underwrite alliances like United States. So that's another factor that would go into Pakistan's consideration. And but the most piercing thorn would be in the realm of defense, which Pakistan and China, value a lot as far as the bilateral relationship is concerned. China has a history of providing Pakistan with arms and ammunition, military technology. But if it was to come down to a conflict with India, China would never come rushing to Pakistan help. And that has been, unfortunately, China's history if you go and look back. So, and the another element that would, I think, feature in Pakistan's calculation is the trade. The balance sheets are already tilted towards China, and if they were to get further closer, that would sound almost a death knell for domestic industry. And as far as this aspect is concerned, then there's this specter of the US-China confrontation. If Pakistan is on China's side, it will invariably get involved in it one way or the other. And now, Michael, we have seen another transformation that has not been noticed a lot. Pakistan has traditionally supported one China policy. But recently when our caretaker prime minister was there and then the joint communique came out, we have graduated to supporting, the reunification of Taiwan as well. So these things can cause complications for Pakistan. And the fourth strategy in this game could be hedging. The strategy of hedging has emerged as the most pragmatic approach for Pakistan in this high-stakes political games. The diplomatic tightrope walk involves a calculated balance, ensuring that Pakistan does not get ensnared in binding partnerships either with the United States or with China, and maintaining functional and strategic ties with both. Envision Pakistan as a shrewd negotiator at the diplomatic bazaar, advocating self-interest and consistently telling United States and China that while its loyalty is not for sale, its cooperation can be negotiated. This approach would allow Pakistan to develop independent relationship with both countries, cherry-picking areas of cooperation and meticulously setting the boundaries for these partnerships in the political, economic, and security realms. The layer of hedging is multifaceted. Firstly, it opens the gates of opportunity, enabling Pakistan to tap into the Chinese coffers as well as the Americans, getting maximum economic and security assistance. This is a potential scenario, and then there's strategic autonomy. By refusing to be tethered to either Washington or Beijing, Pakistan would maintain the sovereignty of decision-making, and that would be particularly handy in case of a conflict between United States and China. Then Pakistan would be master of its own destiny without looking towards the fluctuations in the superpower relations. Furthermore, Pakistan's unique position as a nuclear power with and a huge population makes it a player that United States and China cannot ignore. The specter of economically devastated Pakistan is something that both Washington and Beijing are even trying to avoid right now. The rolling over of Chinese loans and the American assistance probably, or not at least opposing IMF loan for Pakistan, it's part of that. However, hedging is no silver bullet as well. It is strewn with obstacles and perils, especially for a country grappling with internal challenges like political fragility, economic instability. The hedging strategy demands a level of domestic stability and diplomatic finesse, which Pakistan struggles to muster, making this tightrope wobble dangerously. Moreover, sitting between the two titans would make Pakistan vulnerable to become a site of proxy conflict between the two. And finally, the final consideration as regards to hedging is that Pakistan's China-Pakistan economic corridor has already slowed down. Its rejuvenation requires complete and blanket support for China. That won't be possible under hedging. So Pakistan would have to manage its expectations. So finally, what I would recommend, after learning a lot from Michael over the past few months, is that Pakistan must go, hedging is actually a derivative of hedging plus, or calibrated hedging is a derivative of hedging. But because of Pakistan's peculiar situation, its past, it's the impression that it is already into the Chinese camp. It will have to go for hedging plus or calibrated hedging. And for operationalizing that strategy, it would have to take the following steps. It would have to prioritize communication. In diplomatic dialogues with both United States and China, Pakistan would have to emphasize its commitment to sovereignty and mutual benefits of bilateral cooperation. There should be continuous dialogue with both sides to prevent any misunderstandings. Secondly, Pakistan would have to leverage economic opportunities. The economic cooperation shouldn't be framed the economic cooperation should be framed in the context of Pakistan's national needs rather than zero-sum game between Pakistan and United States. Pakistan should utilize and should continue to benefit from BRI and CPEC for its economic growth, but at the same time, it should keep exploring avenues for trade and investment from the West. The defense and security partnership should also continue with Beijing. That's, as I said, that's a steadfast source of support for Pakistan. But at the same time, it should continue engagement with the United States on counterterrorism and regional stability. But the important thing over here is that there should be transparency in this on the cooperation with both sides, because the other side shouldn't feel that its interests are being compromised. And then, as far as navigating geopolitical issues is concerned, Pakistan has to be proactive with regards to the situation in Afghanistan and its transition to a more democratic and open society, which will increase Pakistan's value in view of both Beijing and the United States. China wants stability at its borders. The United States is concerned about the possibility of resurgence of terrorism. And Pakistan should, meanwhile, as regards Kashmir, it should continue seeking support from both sides, although, the success depends on, is not assured. Then the balancing financial engagements, Pakistan has to manage financial arrangements with China to dispel this impression of falling into Chinese debt trap. And it should also manage its workings with IMF and World Bank so that we don't, or people don't get this impression that it is pivoting away from China, because that would come with costs as well, also, as I mentioned earlier. It has to employ multiple alignments. It has to, Pakistan would have to increase its engagement with the European Union. Similarly, it should more effectively utilize mechanisms like SCO for attaining its strategic and economic goals. The underlying premise is to maintain sovereignty and agency in international relations without becoming a pawn in strategic games. Thank you for bearing with me. It has been fairly long.
Well, thank you. No, that was, thank you very much for that, Baqir. It was a wonderfully rich and very comprehensive assessment.
Very long, Yesterday we were having discussion, and I gave an understanding to Michael that I would finish in 25 minutes, but I tested your patience today.
Well, you saw I wasn't banging the gavel. No, that was wonderful. And especially the last few slides with the recommendations, I think, are particularly worth thinking over. I'll be reflecting on those a lot. Thank you for that. And just to clarify, the comment I made at the beginning about this idea that Pakistan is all in with China, I was highlighting a perception that many here in the U.S. have. I don't necessarily endorse that view.
No, I have been reflecting the sense in Islamabad, right. Without ascribing to that.
Absolutely. So I know that there'll be questions, but I wanted to pose a question to you first. I always enjoy comparative perspectives. And as we all know, Pakistan is not the only country that's working to navigate and balance its relations. It's not the only country that's trying to balance its relations with the U.S. and China. So It'd be useful if you could identify any countries out there that you think have done a very good job of managing their relations with the U.S. and China, and what lessons that might pose for Pakistan if some countries like that come to mind. Indonesia is a country that some have cited as a potential case study to look at, but one could also identify maybe a country like the Philippines, which is a treaty ally of the U.S. but also has sought to deepen commercial ties with China. What about countries in Pakistan's neighborhood like Bangladesh or Sri Lanka? So if you wanted to try to weigh in with some comparative perspective, if you'd like.
Yes. Michael, the discourse in international relations has shifted to acknowledging the fact that small and medium powers, and not just the big powers, they influence the outcome of high-stakes international confrontation. And that is especially true in situations like Thucydides' trap, where an emergent power is threatening to displace the incumbent, resulting in geopolitical tensions and also possibility of war. So we have several examples. You have pointed out some, but I would, personally, it's a matter of personal judgment. I would prefer a policy like that of Singapore. That has also adopted hedging. And an interesting element in that, the Singaporean strategy is that it has military exercises with Taiwan, and at the same time, it is maintaining military cooperation with China. So what has enabled Singapore to successfully adopt that strategy? First, it does not have any ideological or geographical clash with either sides. Its geographic location makes it a financial and commercial hub for Southeast Asia, and there are overlapping interests with both sides. So, but more importantly, Singapore has a declared policy of hedging. That it will, go with both sides instead of many other countries operating in the gray area. So, Singapore is, deepening its cooperation with the United States and China. So the lesson from there, from the Singaporean model, and I'll come to Bangladesh as well, is that Pakistan, instead of going for alignments, it should go for partnerships. And in partnerships, it should focus on the economic element, because that's the main challenge that is facing Pakistan internally as well. So as long as Pakistan is not economically strong, it cannot adopt other strategies effectively, like even if it has to go for hedging, it has to be economically strong so that it can sit across the other, sit across China and United States and deal on its own terms. So as far as Bangladesh is concerned, I think Bangladesh situation is very much similar to that of Pakistan. It has made, kept sort of ambiguous stance towards this. We had this Indo-Pacific outlook launched in April, and everyone thought that Bangladesh had announced its alignment with the United States, and that was interestingly announced before Hasina Wajid left for a visit to the United States, United Kingdom, and Japan. So, but that ambiguity has not been removed by that document. Where Bangladesh is having a relationship with China, it is also part of BRI. China is undertaking projects there worth $9.5 billion. And much like Pakistan's struggling ML1 project, they have this Padma rail link project over there, which is also struggling, and they were able to only complete first phase of that, and then there's a long delay. The second phase is projected to start long way down the road, and then with the United States, it has this bilateral partnership dialogue as well as the security dialogue, and United States had been wanting to sign two agreements with Bangladesh. One was the military information agreement, and the other was acquisition and cross-servicing agreement. But Bangladesh had been reluctant to do so. Actually, Bangladesh problem over there, much like Pakistan, is the India factor, though for different reasons. Pakistan has other reasons for factoring in India while deciding its alignment, and for Bangladesh, it's different. And then the other interesting example, probably is Brazil, which is both part of OECD and BRICS, and it's, getting benefits from both sides. As far as regional influence is concerned, it is good friends with Washington, and maintaining military ties with China. So, that's my.
Thank you. Interesting. So I have other questions I could ask, but I'm sure that you all do. So why don't we start here in the room? If anyone would like to raise their hand, and we'll go around. There should be a mic that'll be passed around. You've got the mic.
So the
Great.
man with the mic also wants to ask you a question. Probably he had been raising.
Why don't you ask the first question? Please go ahead. And also, if you could give all of you, your name and your affiliation, if you'd like, so that everyone knows who you are.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to ask a question. My name is Makhtoom Karam Shah. I'm a staff assistant working here at the Will Center with Michael. So I basically have two questions. Firstly, throughout your research, did you find any indications of either the US or China sort of pushing Pakistan to choose sides? And secondly, I would like to ask about your recommended strategy, whose reasoning, as you've sort of presented it, seems sound, but that's sort of keeping in view that the geopolitical side stays the same. So how would potential geopolitical upheaval, such as a potential forced reunification of Taiwan or negative developments in the India-Pakistan relationship, play into the strategy? Thank you so much.
Ambassador Masood is here, and I've heard him, state this at number of seminars and meetings, that there has been no pressure from the United States. I would take his word. But behind the scenes and, between the lines, there has always been messaging. I think Ambassador Masood would agree with me from the United States that, you have to pick sides, whether it's the unease over the IMF money being spent on CPEC projects or the other, instances. But, there has been pressure from the United States, though not overt, but covertly. But Chinese have been traditionally, I would like to point this out, traditionally very supportive of Pakistan-United States relationship. They wanted Pakistan to work with the United States in the past. But that attitude is gradually changing. And the Chinese, to whom I have spoken, tell me that it has happened, the change in attitude has happened because of United States criticism of CPEC and BRI and the repeated mantra of debt trap. So I know from as my personal information, although this is not reported anywhere in the media, that in some of the meetings, even not at the highest level, but the red lines have been set by China, that with regards to engagement with the United States. And at the same time, at least in one meeting in May this year, that took place after a very long time, the Chinese conveyed to Pakistan that they suspect the sincerity of the United States in re-engaging with Pakistan. So I think clearly the pressure is from both sides, though the nuances may be different. As far as the geopolitical developments are concerned, I think that will accelerate the process of Pakistan shedding its policy of ambiguity. It will force Pakistan to at least openly take sides. I see that transition already, as I mentioned, that Pakistan has now graduated from one China policy to supporting reunification of Taiwan. And if hostilities break out with India, I think that would push Pakistan more closer to China rather than to the United States, because the Western policy on on helping Pakistan with these problems is that they don't come to Pakistan's aid. China too wouldn't come, but at least it would remain a source of military supply.
Thank you. Two good questions. Gentlemen over here. Yes, if you could, sorry, just wait till there's a mic.
Thank you. Steve Jackson. I'm a fellow here at the China Environment Forum, and I'm interested in the CPEC and in particular the bottom end of it in the port of Gwadar. Is there any progress toward really integrating Gwadar and the Baluchistan area into a greater corridor into Pakistan?
Yes, if you look at the, as far as the integration is concerned, we would have to look at the developments on the roads projects is the road projects is concerned. There are two basically alignments. The eastern alignment that is almost constructed. There is one patch remaining between Sakkar and probably Hyderabad. But here the eastern route that was to connect, to Gwadar through Deir Ismail Khan, I think work on that is lagging. It has only been, covered almost, you can say, 30 or 40%. The progress on the other road projects is relatively slow. So that aspect of integration of Gwadar with the mainland, as far as this connectivity is concerned, I think that is little slow to progress. In fact, the monogram that Michael talked about, it's on CPEC, the 10 years of CPEC. So CPEC is, in my perception, at least 5 years behind schedule. Now it should have been at a stage where it should have started bearing fruits. The road projects should have been completed. The electricity projects should have been already operational, and SEZs should have been functioning. So we don't have the SEZs still there. We don't have the roads projects completed, especially this eastern link, which the political parties in Pakistan actually emphasized a lot. So although this some sort of road is present over there, but not that the CPEC high quality road, which could bear the big trucks going down that side. But then there's not much traffic there. Gwadar has not really taken off as a port. There's very limited cargo traffic going on there. It's mostly related to Afghan transit trade. The reason behind that is that the entire concept of Gwadar and the power projects in Pakistan was that the SEZs would come up. That hasn't taken place. So not much traffic is going through that part of the country.
Thank you. And as I think many of you know, the U.S. ambassador to Pakistan, Donald Blome, was in Gwadar recently.
Yes.
Went for a trip
And
there.
he didn't go to just Gwadar, he also visited Gilgit as well.
Indeed, yeah. Question right here. Actually, we'll take two. First you, and then the person next to you. Please, go ahead.
My name is Zunaira, and I'm a journalist from Pakistan. To be honest, the things that we talk about on such forums are far from the reality. What is happening on ground is very different. So the foreign policy choices that Pakistan has been making, I don't think those have been working since last 20 years, 30 years. And there is something that is a disconnect between what we actually witness over there while we are talking on talk shows and doing the analysis and meeting people, and when we go internationally, the stuff is totally different. Why do you think that disconnect is there, number one? Number two, we have been partners in war on terror with US and NATO forces for so long, and still there is a trust deficit between the two countries. At the same time, the Gwadar thing, like the Ambassador Bloom going to Gwadar and doing a press conference from there, China took the message. How does that work? Like, how do you change your stances, your priorities so often that the countries get confused that in which direction does actually Pakistan want to go? Thank you.
So, Zunaira, actually, that's the main issue. You have touched the bottom of the problem, that we don't have this continuation of policy in Pakistan, and that is linked to a number of reasons, which I also briefly touched upon. Pakistan is an economically fragile country, and there's political instability. So there cannot be continuation of policies. Although there's a framework that continues all along, but still they have to make shifts according to the prevailing situation. So one reason is that that is happening over there. As far as the relationship with the United States is concerned, the basic problem that we need to understand is that this relationship has been influenced by extraneous elements rather than being built on intrinsic value. So this relationship has never been built on intrinsic value. First, it was, we came together because of the Cold War, then the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, then the war on terror. So we don't share, a bond. We have a sort of functional relationship which is continuing going on. Since there's nothing in Pakistan right now that interests the United States. So Pakistan has gone down the priority. First, the United States has partnered with India, and Pakistan seems to be partners with China, the opposite rivals for both sides, so that inhibits, engagement. And then Pakistan is not an economic success story, so it is not very attractive for American corporate sector. The third point I would like to make over here is that in our engagements with the United States, Pakistanis mostly rely on the past stories that we helped you in Cold War. We did this in Afghan war. We did this in war on terror. And although there were some problems over there at that time, but the people in America want to hear that what can Pakistan do right now? Does it have the potential to be good business partners over there? How can it help with regards to China? So we have to develop that clarity. And as regards Ambassador Bloom's visit and its potential outfall is concerned, Pakistan has been, swinging from one end to other because of a lack of policy direction in Islamabad. I mentioned that, these were the four considerations, and Pakistan would already have done its assessment, but I don't see on the ground, we keep moving from one end to other. And that is hurting Pakistan more. That lack of policy direction is hurting Pakistan more because then Pakistani actions don't remain credible. I can tell you that Pakistan is now losing credibility with China as well. The point that you mentioned, some of the people who have been to China do mention that they also treat you skeptically. Besides, the economic rationale behind the faltering of CPEC, why CPEC has slowed down, the security factor, I think one thing is that, this to and fro in Islamabad is also, between one end and the other, is also causing China to, slow down on CPEC. And China is now is finding other areas more lucrative and interesting for it.
Thank you. Yes, please, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mariam Zia Baloch. So I want to ask a question related to security. First, that there were multiple attacks on CPEC projects in Gwadar and other areas. And China has been exerting some pressure on Pakistan to take action. So do you think these attacks will have an impact on China-Pakistan relations? The second question is that people in Pakistan said that in next election, Nawaz Sharif is going to come. And we see that whenever Nawaz Sharif comes in, he intensifies his ties with China. For example, we saw it in 2013. How do you see Nawaz Sharif coming in power and improving its relations with China? Do you think US will have any reaction to that? Thank you.
As far as Nawaz Sharif's coming or not coming is concerned, firstly, there's a fairly consistent policy on China relations. Despite these small problems occurring from time to time, there is a policy of continuity with China. There have been problems. To what extent do we engage with China? So those nuances keep changing. But, any government that will come into power will remain engaged with China. But then the important thing to note is that this is not some personal interaction between Nawaz Sharif and China. China would look at the larger picture while engaging Pakistan. Have their security concerns been addressed? When this university attack occurred in Karachi, after that there was a significant, scaling back of activity. When DASU, for instance, happened, DASU is not part of CPEC, but still it had an impact on Chinese activities over there. So is Pakistan, out of the economic woods right now? So these are the factors that China would look into. Just because of Nawaz Sharif coming into power or someone else coming into power, China would again, engage with Pakistan in a big way. That isn't going to be the case.
Thank you. Gentleman sitting right next to the American flag over there.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ali Milad, and my only affiliation is that I'm a resident of Hunza Valley. It's the area basically where CPEC itself starts. And
Beautiful place, I love going there.
couldn't disagree with that. But about the concept that you brought forth for calibrated hedging, and then emphasizing that Pakistan must be, it must emphasize its sovereignty whenever it's dealing with China, the U.S., or anyone else in the world. Don't you think, and I'm going to quote Winston Churchill here, who says that you can't reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth. And economically, I feel like for the past 2 to 3 decades, that's how Pakistan has been, and that's why we don't see a consistency in its foreign policy, because financially, its head is in multiple tigers' mouths. I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but until we fix that, which is more of a micro issue, which as an Austrian economist, I think is because of the lack of property rights and existence of monopolies in the economy. So unless we fix that micro issue, which then leads to better development of the economy, don't you think that unless we do that, we're never ever going to be able to have an independent foreign policy where we're not reliant in certain situations on what certain guarantors that we have around the world want us to do in order for us to survive economically or even have that kind of stability? Thank you.
I can't agree with you more, and I've actually said the same thing in response to Michael's question, that the first thing that Pakistan would have to do is to, avoid these alignments, go for partnerships, strengthen its economy, and once its economy is strengthened, it can only then be in a position to be be able to negotiate terms with, whichever side it, wants to partner. So without that, there's no use. You'll always be dictated terms as long as you are dependent on them. You are dependent on China or you're dependent on US. So then you will have to work on their terms, not on your own. So if you are so committed to your sovereignty, you need to fix your internal house first.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Casey McConnell, and I work at the State Department in the Office of Pakistan Affairs. I have 2 questions. One, are you seeing a movement of the PRC moving towards Afghanistan and opening up economic in Afghanistan, particularly in the cultivation of rare minerals? Are you seeing Pakistan play a role in this? I'm thinking specifically last May, there was a trilateral meeting in Islamabad between the so-called foreign minister of the Taliban, former foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and the former PRC foreign minister. Second question, thinking about opportunities possibly for collaboration between the US and the PRC in South Asia in particular. South Asia is facing a devastating climate crisis. Thinking also of last year and the floods that impacted Pakistan, submerged 1/3 of the country underwater. Those are not going away. Do you see that as an opportunity for destabilizing some of this great power competition narrative and for Pakistan to benefit from that? Over.
Yes, as far as the mineral exploration and the opportunities for China there are concerned, China has been into those projects for a very long time. Even when United States was there, some of these the projects are being now revived. Pakistan could have been helped for China and would have even helped China in the past. But right now we are passing through a difficult phase in relations with Taliban administration, and you would have seen a lot of anger on the Afghan side for Pakistan as well. So I don't think so, as long as this, you pass over this phase, and that is because of the terrorism. Pakistan was having some expectations and hopes from Taliban administration that it would help address TTP issue as well as the presence of Baloch insurgent groups, but Taliban administration hasn't been helpful. Rather, they have been telling Pakistan rather, that you should look internally. And now that Pakistan has started looking internally by sending back the refugees, so they are very angry about that. So in this condition, I don't see Pakistan having a major role. And in one of my recommendations, I did mention this thing, that Pakistan would have to regain that influence and play a proactive role in Afghanistan's transition back to a more open society, for it to be of value to the United States and China as well. Not just the United States, but also to China as well. And yes, the few areas that probably the United States and China can cooperate, one of them is climate change, and Pakistan, being one of the most affected countries, presents an opportunity for United States.
Thank you.
And the most difficult question, I think, is coming now.
Yes, Ambassador Khan.
Someone from whom I've learned a lot, so it's an examination day today.
Thank you so much. I'll make a couple of observations. First is that it's a very comprehensive presentation, and you've been working on the subject for the past several months, and this is the product. And we would closely read and benefit from your recommendations. Second, we are very grateful to the Wilson Center for hosting you and opening this window for interaction. And I think it's a wonderful experiment. It needs to be nurtured further. First, some clarifications. The United States has never put pressure on Pakistan.
Yes, I said.
Yes.
That's what I've been hearing from you.
But you were also suggesting that probably there is some nuanced pressure. And the world is much more complex, and there is no binary here between China and the United States. And China has never, I've served in Beijing, and I can tell you that China has never put pressure on Pakistan to somehow distance itself from the United States. In fact, when we used to get into trouble with the United States during the war on terror, they would advise us to repair the damage, and they would also counsel the United States to resolve those issues with Pakistan, because at that time, the United States and China used to have a mechanism, a strategic mechanism for consultations. And during that, they would suggest, or on the sidelines, they would suggest that good relations between Pakistan and the United States are good for the two countries and also for the region. The United States itself, I would say, is pursuing a very sophisticated policy. You must have seen the tensions last year, but now they have graduated to meeting each other. Commerce Secretary was in Beijing, and then President Xi Jinping would be meeting President Biden. And while the United States and China are competing, they're also cooperating in several areas. I think that this week or a little later, they are also going to have talks on arms control and disarmament, something which is very important for peace and security in the region and beyond. I would also say that we as Pakistan have to figure out how to balance this relationship between between China and the United States. We're working on it, and I think we are succeeding. We understood in both the capitals. We do not mince our words, we do not dissimulate, and we are upfront about it in Beijing and Washington. And so I think that we have to manage these two relationships, which are complex, and we'd be guided by your recommendations as well. It's always fashionable to beat up on Pakistan, because this became the trend during the war on terror, and because there were differences between Pakistan and the United States from time to time in prosecuting that war. And therefore, this was something which was rewarded, I mean, if you beat up on Pakistan. But things are changing now, and we are in a different phase altogether. And I say that we are managing our foreign policy very well. We are on track. And CPEC is also on track. In any project of that size, there could be some tribulations along the way, but it's back on track. And if we were very ambitious in 2013 to wrap up the whole project in 10 years, that was unrealistic. given the objective conditions. But we have already completed early harvest projects, and their value is about $25 billion. And we're moving into the next phase, which will be completed by 2030. The other thing is that people tend to give this impression that United States investments in Pakistan would start from scratch, which is not true. Because if that were the case, why are 80 American enterprises, majority of them Fortune 500, operating there in Pakistan? They've been operating there for decades. And United States is the largest export destination for Pakistan. And our exports to the United States are 23% of the entire volume of our exports. China is number 2 at 10%. So these are some facts and figures. I think that we are suffering from the brand problem. We have one of the worst brands in the world because of these wars that we have been fighting for the past 40 years. We have come out of that phase, and we need to, as I said a couple of weeks ago, that we need to burnish our brand and sort of introduce the international community to the reality of Pakistan. And it's not as negative as it's projected to be. Well, every society has to involve, and Pakistan is not an exception. As I talk to you, I think there was a valid point raised by one of the participants. We are undertaking massive and radical regulatory reforms, whether that pertains to IP protection and enforcement, or whether it's related to ease of doing business. And these are not, I won't agree that they are micro issues. They are very, very important issues, and I'd call them macro issues if we want to attract more investment. I would also say that we have announced that we are opening doors for investment in IT, energy, renewables in particular, extractive industry, and agriculture. Here is an opportunity for American investors to step in, either standalone businesses or in collaboration with the Gulf investors, Gulf sovereign wealth funds. Finally, I have a question for you. The question is that I heard the recommendations. We're already doing that, most of it. I mean, it's a delicate balance, but we're managing. And I love this term that you have used. It's fresh, hedging.
Hedging plus, calibrated hedging.
That's my question.
Yes.
What is the plus in it?
No,
Identify the plus, the key ingredient, that stuff that we are not doing right now and we ought to be doing. Thank you.
No, actually, as I, while explaining that concept, I said that, although it is derivative of the hedging strategy, Pakistan's has, special circumstances. Plus means, we need to do something extra. Pakistan, even though it says that it is not part of any camp politics, but its words are not still credible. You know the impressions in Washington that were even reiterated here as well. So Pakistan would have to go a step further to make people believe through its through actions that are are credible. Secondly, the hedging involves not putting your eggs in one basket. You put in multiple baskets, but then you choose which basket to put which egg in hedging plus. So that's the kind of strategy, a more refined strategy of hedging, because hedging would not work in case of Pakistan. And I've told you the reasons of one, political fragility, economic instability, and the lack of trust on both sides. I would tell you, you know much better than me. I know you are an ambassador and probably will hear your, account from you once you retire. But now problems have started cropping up. You said that in your remarks that United States, China has always been prodding Pakistan to work with the United States. And that's what I said, that that has been the case. But things are now changing. And I specifically mentioned one meeting. I'm elaborating that on on that in my book, so you need to wait, because I will come up with that specific meeting and other, the accounts of those meetings in which, those messages were passed, that they are concerned about counterterrorism with cooperation with United States. They are concerned about the extent to which U.S. is involving, and they even questioned American sincerity in engaging with Pakistan. So that's, something that I found out. So I'll be talking about that later.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the plus. I started selling my book,
So thank you for the intervention, Ambassador Khan. We do have to wrap up, but we have time for one or two very quick questions bundled together. I know you had a question. Is there one more? We could take one more very quickly. If not, okay, just go with you.
I think also has one question, a concluding question.
Hello, my name is Arif Ansar from Polytech. Quick question. You mentioned hedging and other terminologies that you used. U.S. often defines its relations around the world by saying that we have shared values, and that's why it's our security or economic partner. Should Pakistan use something similar, that they have shared values with the U.S. in the sense of democracy, HR, human rights, etc.? Plus, ever since Pakistan independence, it has been aligned with the West and the U.S. So all of its economic interests seems to be are aligned with the West as well. So it has a natural advantage. So from time to time, obviously, there are changes, but Pakistan, do you think Pakistan has a natural advantage in this regard?
Yes, in engagement with the West, I didn't go into those factors because of time. So I listed several factors, and there are at least 2 or 3 factors that particularly favor engagement with the West, especially the United States. First is the economic and trade relationship. While the Western nations have been traditionally aid donors and significant development partners, the relationship with China is a bit complicated. China has very limited donor financing or as compared to the West. So naturally, West enjoys an edge over there, and Pakistan would like to benefit from that. Then importantly, are the societal and people-to-people links. There are deep societal connections between Pakistan and the West, and China lacks that. The links between Pakistan and China are through the educational opportunities, the employment, the economic opportunities, and the historical legacy. That is missing with China. There have been newer opportunities for education, but still China is far from that level of societal and cultural integration with Pakistan. Then there's this diaspora influence, like our friends here in the United States. They are the economic lifeline of Pakistan. They invest in Pakistan. They send remittances back to Pakistan. And they also actively engage in the socio-political dynamics of the country. But China does not have that. We don't have any expatriate community over there that could, advocate Chinese interests in Pakistan. So there are, pluses that China enjoys. There are pluses that West enjoy, but we have to find the right balance. Oh yes, there he is.
Very quick, yes, please.
Your perspective about U.S. since you've been living the last 9 months versus knowing about U.S. from Pakistan perspective when you lived there, has it changed or has it evolved?
I think I always considered United States to be a great country of promise, and I think that perception has been reinforced after coming here. A quick answer? A quick question?
Well, that's a good note to end. Oh, yes, very quick.
Mr. Baqir, first of all, thank you so very much. For the last 9 months, you have been a great asset for Wilson Center, and we are very, very glad that we were able to select you and come here. At the same time, our initial conversations, we wanted to find opportunities for enhanced economic cooperation between U.S. and Pakistan or identify some of the sectors. During this research, did you narrow this down that where even His Excellency has mentioned that 80 companies, those companies are in Pakistan, but Pakistan is economically struggling.
Yes.
Actually, our economic numbers are going down. ensure that we identify those areas where further cooperation can be enhanced?
Business, yes, business is one area. Pakistan does require investments from the West, but my study was more focused on the political aspect. As far as the little I know that where United States can cooperate with Pakistan is in the IT sector and in the technology sector, where Pakistan would require American help. And if Pakistan and America partner, that would place Pakistan closer to cutting-edge technological advancement, especially in the renewables, in agriculture, as well as in the industrial sector. So those are the sectors where I think the businessmen from United States should and can invest in Pakistan, and that can be helpful for both countries, and especially for rejuvenating the relationship between the two countries.
Thanks. And, I know we have State Department individuals in the audience, but I will say the message I hear from the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad these days is that trade and investment should really be a priority for the relationship. There are clearly challenges. At any rate, this has been wonderful. I really have to thank you, Baqir, for your 9 months with us, as well as this wonderful presentation, along with the products that will be coming. And we hope that those of you who are here and tuning in will be sure to take a look at these products when they come. We'll be sure to publicize them a lot. And I would just end by, there's not many positive notes in world affairs these days, but I just want to very briefly go back to a brief discussion about the issue of climate change. It's true that all 3 of these countries we've been discussing face this threat in a big way. And indeed, if you're looking for possible pathways for this triangle to be a conducive one, a positive one, I think that may be the angle to look at. Now, certainly with the current administration, we have an election next year, things could change, we don't know what will happen. But I think in the current moment, that certainly is an area to look at. And also public health. Biden, when he was still a candidate, published an article in Foreign Affairs when he identified the areas that he wanted to cooperate with China on. Climate change was one, public health was another. That's something that's significant as well. So at any rate, really want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank Ambassador Khan for being here with us, our supporters for this fellowship, and all of you. So maybe just another round of applause for Baqir. Thank you very much for coming. We're adjourned.